Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors to the elder bishops of Connecticut. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners, and to the Aquas that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago. And just a quick lesson about not being in love with the world. I guess kind of covering two stones. And that there's no end to the people, because you have this doctrine within Christianism that that teaches prosperity, that it's all about, if you got money, then you're blessed, which is so far from the truth. And also that the Idumeans, the Edomites, have been done away with. Because by doing away with them, you just cancel out whole prophecies, dozens of them. That makes the Lord a liar. And we're rather to believe man. Not believe man, but believe God. Salakia. But I'm going to start at Ecclesiastes, the fourth chapter at verse 13. And it reads, "Better is a poor and wise child than an old foolish king, who will no more be admonished. For out of prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor." And, these Idumeans got dominion over the world after they came out of that prison in Job, after they got pushed up into the Caucasus Mountains after the fall of Rome, after they were forced up there by melanated people who, because they'll admit they'll call them African emperors, but they were not. They were Israelite emperors, starting from the time of Septimius Severus, right, which was around, I think, 270 AD, something like that, somewhere around that time period, all the way up to Constantine. Constantine, those were Israelites. They were wicked as all hell, but they were the forefathers, the founders of the Catholic religion, because the Catholic religion is not biblical at all. All right, the Lord is not with that. But that was started by wicked Israelites trying to please the pagans that were living among them, and they married the Bible to paganism. That's why you have Christmas and things of that nature. All right, but Esau, the Edomites, were forced up into the Caucasus Mountains, and they were released out of that prison. And once they got into power, it's true. And if you're in their kingdom, you become poor, because that's the way it's set up. And as a matter of fact, let's go to the account of when they got pushed up into those mountains. That's Job, the 30th chapter. I'm going to read it's about verse 9, from 1 to 9. But this is Job 30 and 1, and it reads, "But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock." So the Edomites are they're younger because they came out of Jacob. All right, they came out of the so-called Negro. He said he would be disdained to sit them with the dog, because they might try to touch the dog. Bestiality is common among the Edomites. All right, you can just look that up on YouTube. All right, but it said verse 2, "Yeah, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished? For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness, in former time desolate and waste." All right, because they got driven up there. All right, "who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat, and they still have the thing of love with juniper, because I'm pretty sure that the juniper root is one of the main ingredients in gin, and that alcohol gin, and so they were eating those roots like food, right? Who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as a thief. All right, so they got driven out once they fell from power. All right, it said, among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles where they gathered together. So when you think about that movie, that old movie with Ray Don Chong called A Quest for Fire that came out in the 80s, that wasn't 100,000 years ago and all that kind of craziness that they say, which is impossible for them to measure. That took sort of time anyway. They've already admitted that carbon dating is only accurate up to 5,000 years. All right. After that, they're just guessing. You know, you pick up two rocks and you'll say one is 10,000 years old, and then you pick up another rock and say it's 1,000,000 years old. It's just madness. They have absolutely no way of saying that. That's pseudoscience, false science. All right. But it says to dwell in the cliffs and in the valleys and in the caves of the earth and in the rocks. And it talks about them. You know, that's what Caucasian means. Caucasian means cave dweller. That's literally what it means. Those that dwelled in a cave. And the so-called white race, which they proclaimed themselves that in 1681, trying to hide from their Edomite heritage. They're the only people that ever lived in the caves, and it was barely 1,000 years ago. Not 10,000, 20,000, 30, or 100,000 years ago. According to the Bible, the time frame of the Bible, all creation, you know, life, the earth is about you know, anywhere from a little over 12,000 years old, 12 to 15,000 years old, roughly. All right, according to when history began to be written. And it says, among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. And if you watch that movie with Quest for Fire, with all that grunting, you know, cavemen. All right. And it says they were children of fools, and they were, because, you know, everyone thinks so high and mighty of the Greeks and the Romans, but look, their society failed. Why? Because of the decadence. When you reach a level of decadence and you elevate women to above men, and you devalue the money, the same thing that's happening in the modern day Rome. All right, same thing that's happening, and every nation before them fell in the same manner. Because you know, the Bible gives you the guideline on how to rule a society, and once you go against that, that society is doomed to fail. But it says they were the children of fools. Yeah, they were base men. They were violent in the earth, and now have become their song, yeah, and their byword. All right. Now, you're right, because we become niggers and Hispanics and you know, and spics and engines, savages. We become all these things, and just like it was promised that we'll become a byword. As a matter of fact, let's go to that's in the curses in Deuteronomy 28, but I'm gonna shoot over to Psalms 69. I'm gonna read 12 through 28. So a lot of reading today. Psalm 69. And it reads, they that sit in the gate speak against me, and I was the song of drunkards. And you know, you think about all those very racist nursery rhymes that are sung about us. You know, they showed you that in 12 years in the slaves, when they said something, that little song, nigga, you better get away. You know that song, run nigga, you better get away. All those little songs that they sang. Okay, and they had the same songs about the so-called savages, so-called natives, the brown-skinned Negroid natives as well. All right. It says, but as for me, my prayer is unto thee, O Yahweh, in an acceptable time, O power, in the multitude of thy mercy, hear me in the truth of thy salvation. So, you know, in Acts 1 and 6, when the Lord returned, the first thing that the disciples asked him was, "Wilt thou now restore the kingdom to Israel?" And what they didn't understand, that 2 days of prophecy and 2 days to the Lord um, is 2 days to the Lord, but that 2 days is 1,000 years down here in our time. So they didn't understand that 2,000 years of prophecy had to go by. And in that time period, that 2,000 years of prophecy, the Edomites had to fall, all right, and go into darkness. On their belly they went. That was the Dark Ages, because now dark people were ruling. All right, it was dark for them, but it was also the dark flesh people were ruling. And then after being loose from that 1,000 year period, they got loose for a little time, and it's been, roughly about 600 years, which is less than a day. So it's a very small time to the Lord, long time to us, right? And we've been suffering under their cruel tutelage, their cruel system ever since. All right. It says, "Deliver me out of the mire, and let me not sink. Let me be delivered from them that hate me, and out of the deep waters. Let not the water flood overflow me, neither let the keep swallow me up. Let not the pit shout her mouth upon me. Hear me, O Yahweh, for thy loving kindness is good. Turn unto me according to the multitude of thy tender mercies," because we're catching hell down here, and it's getting worse as the days go by with the whole demic, with the Vanessa. It said, "And hide not thy face from thy servant, for I am in trouble. Hear me speedily. Draw nigh unto my soul and redeem it." All right, because it said no one would buy us, no one would redeem us, but the Lord. But that period is up now. See, that punishment is past. All right. "Deliver me because of my enemies. Thou hast known my reproach and my shame and my dishonor. My adversaries are all before me. Reproach have broken my heart, and I am full of heaviness. And I looked for some to take pity, but there was none. For no comforters I have found none. They gave me also gall for meat, and in my thirst they gave me vinegar to drink." So this is also prophesying of the Lord right here. Okay, it says, "Let thine eyes be darkened, that they see me not, and make their loins continually shake. Pour out thine indignation upon them, and let thy wrathful anger take hold of them. Let their habitation be desolate, and let none dwell in their tents." And that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to be made desolate, and there won't be left nephew or son. There will be no male seed to carry them on, because the man is what carry the seeds. All right. A male child is how you keep your race, your family line going, not a female child. All right, because a female is gonna, whatever seed is put in her, she's gonna bring forth that fruit. And if your daughter, marries a man that's not of your nation, your grandchild is another nation. That's not your seed line. That's not your people. All right, she's gonna, her child, even though it may look like your people, her child is the child of that seed line, whatever she came from. It's just a side note. All right, for they persecute him whom thou hast smitten, and they take to talk to the grief of those whom thou hast wounded. Add iniquity unto their iniquity, and let them not come into thy righteousness. Let them be blotted out of the book of the living, and not be written with righteousness. So they're going to be blotted out. All right, and then there will be an end to that particular people, because there is no end to the people now. All right, I'm gonna read back in Ecclesiastes verse 4 and 14 again. "For out of the prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor." And you also, let me read the next one. "And I consider all living which walk under the sun with the second child that stand up in his stead." And I'll read that again. "I considered all the living which walk under the sun with the second child that shall stand up in his stead." And you got to remember, speaking of the second child, that Jacob came out second, But the kingdom of heaven, he became the heir to the throne to the kingdom of heaven through Jacob. So the first, Esau got put by. The first child didn't get the blessing as normally it happens. Normally the first male born son gets the lot. Period. Even if you have sisters before you, the firstborn male gets the lion's share of the father's whatever he has. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's typically not what happens today, but that's the way that the Lord set it up. All right. You took care of your daughters, especially if they didn't have husbands, but the lion's share went to the sons. All right, to your eldest son first. As a matter of fact, let's get Second Ezra 6, talking about the second son, because in the case of the Lord, he chose the second son. Second Ezra 6 and I believe 7, and it reads, I'm at 13. How the heck did that happen? Slovakia. There we go. It says, then, Second Ezra 6 and 7. Actually, I'll start at 6. Then did I consider these things, and they all were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also they shall be ended, and by none other. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of times, and when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it to followeth? All right. And then the angel answered and said, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau was born. All right. Remember, Jacob was the second son. When Jacob and Esau were born of him, of Isaac, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, which is the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is the new world to come. All right, so it's not that everybody's going up to heaven and floating around. That's a myth. And the Edomites, according to prophecy, have to be here to build that up for free. They have 1,000 years of the most brutal chattel slavery that the world has ever has not even heard of yet. But they have to go through that because it's prophecy. That is the judgment written. All right, when you read the Psalms, to execute upon them the judgment that is written. The Psalms 149. All right, so here, this is Ecclesiastes 4:16, last verse. And it says, there is no end to all people, even all that have been before them. They also that are come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this is also vanity and a vexation of spirit. So Edom is still here. All right. There was no massacre of them, and it won't be and it seems to be a typical thing for Esau to pretend like he was the victim when he's really the villain. I call him the villain victims. All right. Because when you talk about certain incidents that happen in certain parts of the world, dealing with Germany and stuff like that, there's certain things you just can't even talk about. And you don't have to talk about it in a negative fact. You can just bring up the facts about certain situations and be deemed an anti-something, And if you notice, too, they're trying to connect people who don't do Vanessa and try, and now and trying to blame the situation with all the people who have done Vanessa on the people that don't have Vanessa, which makes no sense since Vanessa is supposedly to protect you. So that narrative is falling too. All right, but anyway, with that, we're going to give all praises, all honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakak Radash, Wa Abba Babal, Kwam Yasharala, Shalom.